Hey guys, welcome to this video, and I'm going to show you how to implement Google sign-in in a Vue.js application. So I have my localhost application here, and if I click sign out, there's no email pops up and the is authorized attribute or value goes to false. If I sign back in, I can sign into this one and my email pops up. If I sign back out and sign back in, I also see this email is signed out. So if I click on that one, I have to re-enter my password in because this one is currently signed out. Let's try that out. So I have to enter my password. Obviously it's already saved, but that's how that works. And I can sign back out, and if I sign back in, that one is signed in already. If you want to disconnect all of your accounts, I didn't go through it in this. I'm not going to go through it in this tutorial, but if you go to the npm package that we're going to use, which is vue3-google-oauth2, this one, which is for Vue.js 3, you can go down in the documentation, go to refer to sample project, and here if you go to demo, you can disconnect, and if you click disconnect and sign in again, next. Well, if I disconnect there, it disconnects from my application as well. So now all of them are signed out as well because Google is using the universal Google OAuth login and logout function. So I signed out of all of my accounts in this in my practice application as well. So if you want that code, you can go to the GitHub repository here and go to source, components, hello Vue, and it has a more detailed code for that. If you go to, if I show you click disconnect and handle disconnect, that's what this code is doing. But I'm going to show you the more simple one where I just have a sign in and sign out option. You can look at the GitHub page repository for more detailed code if that's what you want, but I just want to really cover the basics here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Vue.js application. I'm going to create a new project. Go here, I'm going to create a Vue create practice 8. And Vue3 is now the default, so I'm going to use that. And it's also Vue3 for the npm package that we're using, so we have to use the Vue3 one. There's a Vue2 one too, but I'm going to just show how to do this tutorial in Vue3, and I'll be right back as soon as Vue.js is installed. Okay, so I have new Vue project installed, so I'm going to go to folder and open the practice 8 folder I just created. And I'm going to go ahead and do npm run serve to show you guys it's running. So let's wait for that to open back up. Okay, so I have Vue live server running, so let's go to localhost, and I have it running here. And I'm going to go ahead and delete all of the files, so it doesn't so I only have the h1 tag open. So I'm going to go to view component here. I'm going to delete everything over here, so I just have the div tag. Then I'm going to open up main.js. So the two files that we need to edit is the main.js file and the component file that you're actually using to display the login and logout. So I'm going to close this. So the main.js file is at the very upper level, and the component file is where we locate it, put it or save it. In this case, it's in the components folder here in hello world.vue. So I'm going to minimize that. So go to main.js, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a constant app because we're going to use this multiple times. We want to create it one place and use it twice. So create the constant app here and replace the create app here with app, so it references the same create app both times. Otherwise you'll get an error if you don't change the mount app reference at the bottom. And then we're going to go to import gauth plugin from vue3-google-oauth2, and then you have to go to this. We get an error, can't resolve, doesn't work. So we have to go here and we have to copy this npm installation, and then open terminal, exit out of here, open terminal, blank one, and then install that. And if we go back to our practice, if we go to console log, so we have WebSocket failed. That's not that important right now. Just refresh to make sure. Actually, I have to relog back in, so let's do npm run serve again. In the meantime, we need to get a you may use special comments to disable problem 1. So we're going to define this element, this variable, in a second to make our Vue application work. But in the meantime, we have to get our Google Auth client ID. So let's go to Google, I think it's Google console, implement Google sign-in, and integrating Google sign-in into your web app. So the first thing we need to do is we have to go to our credentials page and we have to create authorization credentials. So here we have to go under credentials and we have to create credentials, and I think create credentials OAuth client ID. So we have to do this one, OAuth client ID, application type, web application, and name your OAuth 2.0 client and then create. So name it demo for practice 8 and add your I. So in this case we're going to use localhost. If I go to my already created one, if I go to this one right here, I have localhost 8080. So let's do that. And I also have localhost. So let's add that in. Add URI, same thing. Localhost, create. And I have my client ID and my client secret. We're not going to use that. So we're going to go to credentials and we have our practice 8 one. And if we go to our client ID, this is our client ID that we're going to use. So copy that, or you can copy it from here. Just click on copy and that should work. So now we go back here and we say let gauth client ID is equal to that. And we're going to say app.use gauth plugin. So we're going to use that variable. And then we're going to add in the reference to client ID, gauth client ID, scope, it's going to be email, prompt, it's going to be consent for this one. So if we go back to our npm, if we go down here, we have scope and prompter, so you can read more into that if you want to customize it further. But for now, that's all we need to do. So let's go back to our app. Our live server is published and it's actually on 81, so I'm just going to cancel my other one because I have 80 already using. So let's redo that. npm run serve. This time it should run on localhost 8080, because if we use 8081, I didn't add it in here in our practice demo account. We don't have it under, we don't have it here. It's going to give an error. So now I have this working on 8080. We should be able to make things work out. So let's go back to our component, which was going to have the login information and everything working. So let's go to the very top. And let's first start by saying h1, and we're going to say is initialized, and it's going to be vue3-google-oauth2.isInit. And if we go to console, it's going to probably give an error. So if I go to console, we have an error popping up. View is not defined, obviously, so let's define that. So we go down here and we go to setup. Let's see if I create that inside export default. So I create a comma here and create setup and do const vue3-google-oauth inject vue3-google-oauth, delete the extra parentheses from GitHub Copilot, then also return Google OAuth, inject is not defined, so let's define that. Go to the very top and say import inject from view, and it should work now. So we have initialized true. You can see that it's false, but then turns to true as soon as it's initialized, so the app is being reactive, which is a good thing. And the inject function is basically what implements what's being used by the npm package. So if we go to I think inject prompt vue.js. I'm not sure if I forgot if it's a provide inject. Provide inject is a JavaScript, it's a Vue.js thing, not a JavaScript thing. So prompt is basically if you define something in the very root of the folders, you can use the prompt to define a value or a parameter, a variable, and then you use it or reference it in the child components, which in this case hello view world.view is the child component, and it's injecting it. So it's referencing this variable that has been defined in the root folder or by the npm package in this case. Since we are not actually using prompt in our application, we're just using inject since the npm package is doing the magic work. So that's how that works. And next we're going to, now that we have our initialized value true, we're going to see if it's authorized. So let's go h1 and we go is authorized, and we go to vue3-google-oauth again, and then is authorized. And if we refresh this, it's false, so that only becomes true once we log in and get authorization token from the Google OAuth server. So now let's do a sign in button. And then one's going to be sign in, and the next one is going to be sign out. And this is going to be, the sign in button is going to be disabled when the authorized value is true, or if the Google OAuth service has not been initialized. So if the service has not been initialized, it's going to be vue3-google-oauth is init is false, or if you've already logged in, which in case vue3-google-oauth is authorized is true. So if either one of these values is, if this value is false or this value is true, then we don't want the sign up button to show. So in this case, we have the initialization is true, so that's okay, and then the authorized is not true, is false, so in this case it's not disabled. So that's how that works. And then for the sign out button, we want to say disabled, and sign out button is disabled when get an error. No, sorry, we got an error. I think when the sign up button is disabled is when, let's see, when the authorization is true, then you want the sign up button to not work. I think, is that right? No. When you're not authorized, I'm just trying to get through the logic here. So if it's supposed to be this, so if you're not authorized, then the sign up button is disabled because you're not logged in. If you are logged in, then the sign up button should be true. So only disable when it's not authorized. So that's how that works. So let's first, and then let's create the click function references. So click, on click, we're going to run a function called handle sign in. And we're going to use the async method. We're going to go down here to methods and go async handle sign in, and then we're going to say const Google user is going to be await this gauth sign in. Google user sign up but never used. So Google user is basically the user that signed in, and then gauth, this is, I think this is the npm package that's using this. So if we go to the npm package we installed is utilizing it. So if we go to let's first use the Google user variable so we don't get that error. So we go to Google user and return null. And if we, before we finish this, I'm just going to show you what this part does. So if we go to this and console log that, if we refresh and then sign in, then if I go to one of these sign-ins, it's basically a function. So this is a function, this is telling it to run that function. So if we go back here, this user we're going to define, actually let's define that here. So data return user is blank. So user is empty in the beginning, but once Google user is defined and we have the sign-in function run and we are signed in, we want this user to be Google user, get basic profile, and then get email, since that's what we're using as our username. And of course, if that doesn't work, then we want to just do a quick, actually we have to wrap this in a try. I forgot to do that, so let's do try catch. Let's copy all of this inside here. Then in catch, we're going to do error, console log error, and then return null, so the login doesn't, login page doesn't change any of its appearances or HTML or DOM. So let's do that. So we've signed in, and then we want to display the email address that we signed in with. So let's go back here, and then let's do h2. and this is going to be user. So let's see. Not sure why that's not showing. Okay, right, it's empty, I forgot. So it's empty, that's why it's not showing, but we also want it to only work if user is not empty. So if we go to the user and so and user, so only if user has a non-empty value. So if we go to then it shows. If we remove that, it doesn't show. So right now we have to sign out and then re-sign back in to assign a value to use, because that to assign a value to the user, since that's been unassigned since we refreshed the page. But let's do the sign out button next, and then we can actually sign back in and show you how it works in full circle. So here on the button, let's go click and handle sign out. And in our methods, let's create another method, async sign out. So let's create another try catch. And let's do await this gauth again, referencing the npm package we installed. Then we go to sign out, and then if I again console log, just to show you guys what this is, if I go to this and then sign out, refresh the page, and if I sign out, then we have a promise that signs us out. That's what that does. So just to show you that there's a function from the npm package that's actually being used here. So we send out, and then we can sign back in. Let's go to log in this one. And I have my logged in username, Simon. That's my email, and then sign back out. Right, I forgot to make this user is equal to empty, so we have nothing showing up there anymore. So sign back in. And then sign out, and then we have everything signed out. So sign back in one more time. And sign back out. So and if I sign back in, let's see, this the is authorized turns to true, and then sign back out, it turns back to false. So everything is working properly. So I'll have a link to my code and my GitHub link, and also leave a link down to the npm package and the sample project. And this is the file for the demo, the official demo that has the get auth code and then disconnect button, and you can find that. You can go to source, components, and hello view here to get the more detailed version of this of Google sign in. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.